regular City Council meeting for October 24th, 2023. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Harmon, not yet present. Councilmember Friedman?
Here.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandro Gutierrez, not yet present. Councilmember Snedden?
Here.
Councilmember Jordan?
Here.
Councilmember Jordan, present. And Mayor Rouse?
Here. Very good. And we have a ceremonial item. Could you read that for me, please?
Item 1, National Arts and Humanities Month, October 2023.
All right, National Arts and Humanities Month, October 2023. Whereas October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month by the White House and Congress for 30 years, and whereas arts and cultural expressions serve as beacons of light and understanding that draw people together despite differences and advance new ways of thinking, and whereas Santa Barbara is nationally renowned for our legacy of artistry and world-class cultural institutions, and whereas our diverse creative communities cultivate cultural and economic vitality that enrich the lives of all residents. And whereas the city's Community Events and Festivals Committee and Arts Advisory Committee help to build community connections, support dynamic public spaces, and increase access to the arts for all. Now, therefore, I, Randy Rouse, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Santa Barbara, California, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as National Arts and Humanities Month in Santa Barbara, and encourage everyone to engage in creative expression, explore the diverse cultures around us, and enjoy our community's extraordinary artistic offerings for the betterment of present and future generations. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mayor Rouse and members of council, for your dedicated support of arts for all in our community. With us today are the local awardees, or some of the local awardees, of the prestigious State of California Individual Artist Fellowship. Santa Barbara punched way above our weight class in a fantastic way, winning significant honors, and a major reason for that is the city's ongoing investment in opportunities for our creative community. So I'd like to briefly just introduce these fabulous artists and community contributors.
Mayor Rouse and members of the council, my name is Adrienne De Guevara, and I've been awarded Emerging Artist Fellowship from the California Arts Council. My mediums are sculpture and a socially engaged art. Continued support for the arts and artists play a vital role in Santa Barbara's well-established art culture, contributes to economic vibrancy of our community, and is in large part what attracts so many to our city. Last year, my community engagement project, the Kinetic Cake Express, was awarded an Events and Festivals grant by the city. So a huge thank you to that program and to the city for facilitating art programs that offer access to all community members. And with that, I'd like to ask my cohort to come and introduce themselves.
I'm Jenny Reinish, and thank you for having us here. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I'm one of the established artists that received a fellowship, for which I'm very grateful. And I'm currently working on a documentary speaking out against anti-Semitism and hate.
I'm Deborah Herrick. I'm a writer, an editor, an arts publisher. I'm also on the board of trustees for the Museum of Contemporary Art Santa Barbara. Thank you for your support. I was an awardee of also the established Individual Arts Fellowship. And a publication of mine, Loom Arts Magazine, has also received community arts grants, so thank you.
Hi.
A little bit more.
Hi, I'm Sherry Owen, and my medium is mixed media, ceramics, and printmaking. I received the Emerging Artist Award, and I'm very grateful. And I've been artist practicing for 2 years. So thank you all so very much.
All right, congratulations. Ms. Bjork, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Rouse, we need to pull item 10.
Pull item 10. All right, thank you. And with that, we'll move to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, you have some items to read.
I do. Item 2, acceptance of State of California Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Grant Resolution Agreement. Recommendation of the Council A, adopt by reading of title only, a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Resolution Number 23076, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2024, to approve an increase of revenue and expenditure appropriations in fiscal year 2024 in the Police Department miscellaneous grants fund budget in the amount of $180,000. Item 3, agreement between the Library Department and the Family Service Agency of Santa Barbara for Community Support Services Agreement. Recommendation, let's see. Oh, sorry, don't need more red on that. And that's all for,
All right, very good. Are there any items that anybody on council would like to pull? Very good. Online, are there any items that are to be pulled?
no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and with that, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Friedman. Moved by Friedman,
Second.
second by Oscar Gutierrez. May we have the vote, please?
And 1 minute, we're just going to take attendance briefly. So what you see will not be the vote. Hold on 1 second. So again, this is attendance, not the vote. 1 moment. Wait till it shows up. Okay. Okay. Now we will have the vote for the entirety of consent, a motion by Councilmember Friedman, seconded by Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez. Go ahead and vote, please.
Thank you. That passes 5 to Megan Hartman absent and Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez absent.
Very good.
All right, very good. That concludes the consent calendar. We will take the report from the Finance Committee. Chair Friedman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today at the Finance Committee, we approved to recommend to Council a restructure of the Santa Barbara Community Housing Corporation's loan on the property located at 821 Bath Street. And of significance is that with the restructure of the loan, it triggers the new 90-year affordability covenant. So it's hard to believe, but those units will now be affordable through the year 2114. So decisions today will pay off till 2114. And then we also recommended adoption of the pension management policy of a Section 115 trust. That was previous council direction to establish a pension 115 trust, which will help us to get better rates of return and have more flexibility in our pension management with CalPERS. And just want to thank Mr. DiMartini and all your staff. A lot of work went into this, and just appreciate you being so thorough. And both of these items passed unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we'll move to public comment. We've got a number of speakers today, so we'd like to get within a half an hour of our agenda because we have other items to do. We'll go for 2 minutes per speaker, if you can limit to that, please. This is on any item that is not on today's agenda and is within the purview of this body. Will you give me 2 minutes, please, Madam Clerk, on the timer? So I'm going to call the name up, and I'll call the name after that to be ready to go. The timer's right on the dais, and we'll start with Cindy Silverman, followed by Ferris Sanjahar. I know.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mayor Rouse, and thank you to the City Council for allowing us to speak. I'm Cindy Silverman. I'm the director of the Jewish Federation of Greater Santa Barbara. Jewish Federation has been in Santa Barbara a strong presence since 1976. We're a social service agency. During COVID, we delivered hot meals to people in need. We serve people. We have a relationship with the food bank. We help with housing. We do a lot of social services programs to support this community. I came here to talk about the Jewish Federation, but I just passed 50 people marching down the street yelling death to Israel. I have to tell you, this is very scary. A business owner called me. She asked me not to name who she is. She said, please tell them I had to close my store. One of my people out front was not assaulted, but certainly in some way scared, and somebody said something to her that was pretty insulting. We've done many vigils, as you know. We've had peaceful vigils. We did out on De La Guerra Plaza. We stood, we cried, we hugged each other. We had a beautiful vigil, walked up State Street. We've sung peace songs. Never have we said anything that would consider negative. It's all been positive and loving. And I'm not asking you to take a side, although if you did in this situation, you'd be on the right side of history because most of the Western world has. But I'm asking you to stand up to hate because this is unacceptable in our town to see people screaming death to Israel and scaring our business owners. I have children's parents calling me afraid to send their kids to school. I've had to hire security for my building 24/7 because we're afraid. And this is not Santa Barbara. And I'm asking you all to stand up to hate now, and you need to speak out, and you need to be strong, because it's the only way that we will get through this if our leaders stand up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone if we could please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing. We have a limited amount of time. We want to give everybody the chance to be heard. So please make that the end of the applause, if you would, please. Ferris, I'm going to say Sanjaktar. You're going to have to correct that one for me. Thank you. Followed by
Ferris
Laurent
Sanjaktar.
Bursa. Please go ahead.
Mayor Rao, City Council members, and my community. I'm a local resident and proud standing employee here where I call Santa Barbara my home for over 3 years now. I scoot to and from work every day down State Street by businesses, residents, and tourists, and I've always admired the flags of local nonprofits hung along my commute. Today, I speak on my own behalf. Recently, as of last Wednesday, I noticed the change in flags to the light blue Jewish Federation flags on State Street, where residents and tourists shop, eat, and admire our city's downtown area. After seeing these flags, I decided to research the Jewish Federation. The Jewish Federation, unlike Jewish Voice for Peace, directly supports Israel. The first thing one would see on their website is how to donate to Israel. Their Instagram has posts supporting Israel, one being "We Stand with Israel." No matter if these flags were hung intentionally or coincidentally, given recent events, they send a message to our community and to the tourists visiting during this challenging time for the world of where we stand, in solidarity with what happened on October 7th in Israel and to support Israel through this crisis. No matter if these flags were scheduled to be hung a year ago or in response to what happened, one would think downtown Santa Barbara, out of respect to the inclusivity of all community members affected by these tragic events that are still fresh and still unfolding, would reschedule a flag that sends this message to our residents and visitors. I am here today to ask for us all to stand together in solidarity with everyone affected by recent events and for those flags to be taken down out of respect for the community grieving for the inhumanity the war has brought, as well as the community calling for the liberation of Palestine. It is essential to note downtown Santa Barbara's negligence to assess the state of the world before hanging up 125 flags of a nonprofit organization that directly supports one side of an issue so prevalent in today's global media platforms in the area with the heaviest foot traffic for residents and tourists to see a false representation of where we all stand as a community during this tumultuous time. Tourists and some of our residents do not know about the flag program. Flag installation schedules are changeable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurent Brish, and I'm going to announce that at 2:20, we're going to stop accepting speaker slips and hands raised online for public comment. As followed by Ashley Myers. Go
Thank you,
right
Mayor and the Council. My name is Laurent Brish. In Santa Barbara, California, United States of America 2023, I should not be here. But I am. I couldn't not be here because anti-Semitism is coming up again. The oldest hatred emerges again. For years, we've been told that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, that the obsession with Israel has nothing to do with the Jews. But as expected, as warned, and as sadly predictable, anti-Zionism has been an evil facade. And they think that now is the right time to take away the mask. It's just the newest form of anti-Semitism. The anti-Semites demand we take down our flags. Now, for those who haven't seen it, let me describe the flags for you. Blue, multiple shades of blue, a candelabra, which has been the symbol of Judaism for over 2,000 years, and the name Jewish Federation. That's it. Nothing about Israel, nothing about Palestinians, only pronouncing the presence of Jews. And those who insist on the removal of these symbols representing our Jewish community cloak themselves in a costume of supposed progressive values and liberal ideals. But their moral deficiency becomes evident as they advocate for the protection of all minorities, except for the Jews. 55669. That was a number my grandmother wore on her arm in Auschwitz when her family was murdered. Yet after the war, she still found it in her heart to invite strangers into her home for a warm meal. My synagogue here on October 7th, when 1,400 Jews were massacred, had security guards, as Cindy mentioned, but ended the service with a prayer for innocent Gaza civilians. My grandmother, my synagogue, those are examples of progressive values with moral authority. The anti-Semitism does not intimidate me, it does not lessen me, and it sure as hell does not erase me. So in closing, thank you to the City Council for the opportunity to speak. Don't back down to anti-Semites in our backyard. In all its forms, it should have no place in our community, and let's keep the flags up.
Thank you. Ashley Myers, to be followed by Cassandra Ensberg.
Hello, my name is Ashley Myers, and I'm the Assistant Regional Director of ADL's Santa Barbara Regional Office. ADL is a leading anti-hate and civil rights organization whose mission is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. We are deeply troubled by the reports that members of the community are calling for the removal of the Jewish Federations of Santa Barbara's flag, which is on display as part of the State Street Flag program. The Jewish Federation flag was scheduled to fly before Hamas's terrorist attack on October 7th. It is not an Israeli flag. It is a flag with the Federation's logo. The targeting of a Jewish organization in the United States is unacceptable, and holding Jewish Americans responsible for the actions of the Israeli government is anti-Semitic. In the 2-week period following October 7th, which was the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust, ADL has tracked a 22% increase in anti-Semitic incidents across our country compared with this time last year. In our Tri-Counties region, we have seen anti-Semitic flyers appear on homes, anti-Israel graffiti on school grounds, and comparisons of Israel to Nazi Germany in response to the war in the Middle East. Criticism of Israel in and of itself is not anti-Semitic, but to hold Jews collectively responsible for the actions of the State of Israel is a longstanding form of anti-Semitism. Contemporary anti-Zionism, which is often characterized by the vilification and ostracization of anyone who supports Israel's mere existence, is anti-Semitic. Too often, the term Zionist becomes a catch-all term for any Jewish person. Jews have a wide range of views on the State of Israel and are often among first critics. Anti-Zionists deny plurality of thought among the Jewish people, and who, by the way, can express anti-Semitism themselves, and critiques of Israel far too often become critiques of the entire Jewish people. Instead of publishing a bland description of the flag approval process, the city's response could have used this opportunity to counsel the critics on anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra Ensberg, followed by Izzy Savage. First for Cassandra Ensberg.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and City Administrator, and community. I'm here with, Izzy is also, we're all here together, so Izzy's going to follow with some comments as well.
Okay, you get 2 minutes each, so go ahead.
Yes. So we are here, it's such a challenging time, obviously. So we're here on a happier note and in a way that, for the Kids Draw Architecture program, a way to bring the community together in using art. I'm Cassandra Ensberg, and I'm here representing the Architectural Foundation of Santa Barbara, along with some of our Kids Draw Architecture team, Izzy Savage, and Molly Burns, and Kate Ryder, sorry. We are here every year to bring you the calendar and to present you with our gift. This is the 2024 calendar, and that features, for the first time, color. And this is a beautiful drawing of the detail on the inside of the Presidio Chapel by 7-year-old Otto Faust. I also brought the first calendar that we ever did. I just thought you might enjoy seeing that. 30 years ago. So last year, roughly 50 artists and of all ages, from 2 3/4 to 94 years, met at the Presidio to sketch the beautiful adobe structure and the site. We as architects have created this program for the community to sketch our unique and important public buildings so as to learn about design and architecture and what makes Santa Barbara so special. Izzy?
Savage, go right ahead.
Hello, everyone. Please enjoy these calendars every day as a reminder of what makes Santa Barbara unique and special, as well as the importance of the profession of architecture and design excellence. Calendars are included for each of you, as well as our city administrator and other city staff, to share with their departments. The team has included a note for each. We would welcome and be delighted for your comments, appreciation of the program and the calendar by using one of the postcards at the end of the calendar, if you are so moved. The calendars will be available for purchase at our local bookstores, Chaucer's Books, the Book Den, the Museum of Art, and the Architecture Foundation office. They are great gifts, and your purchase helps support the program. Please join us to celebrate our youth at the 2023 exhibit and reception at the Atchison House Gallery on Sunday, November 12th from 1 to 3 p.m. Thank you from the Architecture Foundation of Santa Barbara and all of us.
Thank you all very much.
So here you go.
Architects bearing gifts. All right. I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Rabbi Evan Goodman, followed by Amber Asher.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Rabbi Evan Goodman, and I speak on my own behalf, but for the last 14 years, I've served in the leadership of the Jewish community at Santa Barbara Hillel, as well as on the faculty at UCSB, teaching the history of anti-Semitism course to undergraduates. I shouldn't have to be here with you today. I would much rather you take up your time talking about architecture and affordable housing and art, but we're speaking today about erasure of the Jewish people. What happened 2 Saturdays ago was an attempted annihilation of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. It succeeded in murdering, raping, torturing more than 1,400 of my brothers and sisters, people I knew. There are people in this community who want to erase the Jewish people from here in Santa Barbara. They don't like the idea that Jews would fly flags proudly. Well, I will say, I am unabashedly, proudly Jewish. Many of my brothers and sisters are. Please do not fall for those who would tokenize the Jewish people, take 1 or 2 or 3 random Jews and say that they represent the Jewish people. The vast majority of the Jewish people identify profoundly, tragically, and sadly with the events that happened. The Jewish Federation is an upstanding nonprofit organization in the community and deserves every right not to be erased. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Asher, to be followed by Ruth
Ms. Asher had to
Marshalom.
leave, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Ms. Asher had to leave.
Okay, very good. Ruth Marshalom, please.
Thank you. My name is Ruth Marshalom. I see Santa Barbara putting the signs of the Jewish Federation as a sign of solidarity. Solidarity against the atrocities that we saw happening 2 weeks ago. Expressing solidarity towards a people that is suffering does not mean that we deprecate anybody else. At the same time, we should not have a short memory. Hamas and the people that created that atrocity do not represent all the Palestinians. However, we did not hear right after the attack a lot of Palestinians saying, this is not us. Actually, I didn't hear it at all. I want to remind people, perhaps the younger people that didn't see that during September 11, Palestinians in both Gaza and the Western Wall, they were celebrating the tragedy of the towers. So 1 person or 10 persons or 1,500 terrorists do not perhaps represent the entire Palestinian people, but I ask us to know who we want to be in solidarity with. We should support goodness, not hate. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any hands raised online?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 hands raised online. We'll call on Sullivan Israel and then El Johanna Israel. Sullivan Israel, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Sullivan Israel. I'm speaking on my behalf, not in conjunction with any group that I'm a part of. I'll be honest, I don't have anything prepared. I felt like I had to join the meeting and make a public comment when I heard about some of the demands going on in town to bring down the Jewish Federation flags. I have many friends in the Jewish Federation, and it's really horrible to hear and see that people are conflating our local Jewish group with any feelings they may have about Israel. They're not calling for peaceful talks with Israel. They're not calling for the government to engage in anything like that. They're choosing one of the only local Jewish organizations and using it as a scapegoat for international events that they don't appreciate. I think we need to be clear. Hamas's goal 2 weeks ago was to kill as many Jews as possible. We know that because it's in their charter. They are widely supported in Gaza. They were elected to that position. And people who will tell you that they want the flags taken down in Santa Barbara are not condemning Hamas. They're not saying Hamas did bad actions, but they don't represent Palestinians. They're simply directing large amounts of anger at the Jewish Federation for no apparent reason. And as far as the Jewish Federation supporting Israel, if you actually go on their website and look at what they're supporting charities to help people get through trauma and to provide medical equipment to those who are hurt in Israel. I would hardly call that supporting the Israeli government or any other actions that they may be doing there. And that's something that really everyone should be doing right now. And so at the end of the day, I ask that everyone in Santa Barbara stand with the Jewish people and don't listen to the calls to take down the flags. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our final speaker is El Johanna Israel. El Johanna Israel, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In case anyone is wondering, that was my son speaking before me. I would simply like to say that first I'd like to ask if anyone on council or the mayor himself is actually considering a motion to remove the flags. Before I would like to know if anybody is actually considering that.
Ma'am, this isn't a conversation. It's your chance to be heard.
Okay, I understand. Asking for Federation flags, which coincide with the film festival, to be removed is a slippery slope. Next thing that could be asked is that synagogues disappear, that mezuzahs on our door disappear, that men wearing kippahs, yarmulkes, aren't allowed to wear them. I don't know where this will stop. I don't know where I know where it shouldn't start. I know that conflating a film festival that American Jews have is not only irrelevant to the actions in the Middle East, but it is also a celebration, much like the many other celebrations in our town. In fact, the Asian celebrations that are about to take place next week were advertised in the paper today. On the same token, I think every human being here could find some symbol that they find unlikable or threatening. The next thing that could be asked, for instance, with flags, could be that the very flag of Santa Barbara, which has symbols of the Trinity on it, which for many people is very offensive, given the Catholic Church has murdered over more than 100 million people in its history, or the mission stands against hate, but for obvious reasons in history has stood as a symbol of hate.
Thank you, ma'am. That's the time limit. All right, I have a couple of slips here that apparently made it under the wire, so I'll call on Phyllis Cohen, followed by Amy Katz.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and council people. Forgive me, my throat is raw. I've been glued to the TV for the last 17 days. I've not slept. I don't sleep, I don't eat, I don't do anything, and I'm living in a nightmare. I am a Polish Israeli American. My son, Daniel Cohen, is the Jerusalem correspondent for America on Newsmax. I have been privileged to watch him daily for the last 17 days, and the horror that I am witnessing from Israel. I am here on behalf of my country, people in Israel. My son yesterday reported, after seeing the horrific videos that were released by the Israeli Defense Force, for the news people to see the horrors and the atrocities that were committed by Hamas. And I have to tell you, I am shaking, I can't stop. He had tears in his eyes as he was sharing the events of what he saw. And my prayer is that he's able to remove all the visuals of all the atrocities that he had in his mind. I have to tell you, my heart leaped to the TV. I am ready to get on a plane and be there. The support for Israel is immense. We are fighting for our own existence. I just want to ask, in just recollection, because I was raised in Poland, am I living in 1939 Poland, or am I living in 2023 America? There is no difference. Unfortunately, the trauma for the Jewish people and our survival is still at stake. I don't understand why there would be such hatred that our flag would be displayed in our beautiful community that I am a proud supporter of. I am a teacher here, and I am also a proud citizen. I support our country, I support our city, and I pray that good things will come. I have faith and I have hope that we can do something wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. My son wanted to meet you, but you were out on COVID. So thank you very much, and I pray for peace and harmony for the planet.
Thank you. Amy Katz, the final speaker.
Hi, thank you, Mayor and council people, for letting me speak. You may have seen me running around the room. In addition to being a member of the Jewish community, here I'm also a photojournalist. And I have been covering the local events, both what's happening with the pro-Palestinian and the pro-Israel supporters. I have been teaching communication for 20 years. I'm a specialist in textual analysis, and I have been so deeply concerned, not only concerned, but terrified, because I am seeing the specific rhetoric that is being put out, and most of this is coming from the organization that the gentleman mentioned, he was part of, who wants the flags down, and they're called Jewish Voice for Peace. According to the Anti-Defamation League, this is published in November of 2022. The Jewish Voice for Peace is an anti-Semitism organization that practices extremism, terrorism, and bigotry. Jewish Voice for Peace, and I quote, is a radical anti-Israel and anti-Zionist activist group that advocates for the boycott of Israel and the complete eradication of Zionism. When I look at what they're putting out, on the surface, it sounds great. We want good things for the Palestinians. The Palestinians and the Israelis are suffering terribly, but it's very complicated, and there's a lot of different sides to this. On the surface, when people just skim their material, it sounds like any other issue that Democrats like me, liberals like me support. But underneath, it's inciting violence. So I encourage you to look at this literature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good. That'll conclude public comment. We'll move to Councilmember Committee Assignment Reports. Ms. Snedden.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. I do feel before committee report, since the question was asked and since it seems to be in the room, I think just the idea of taking the flags down is unacceptable. I want to voice my support for the Jewish Federation and thank you for your service to the community and support the flags staying on State Street proudly. And I wanted to voice that.
Please, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last week I attended the Events and Festivals Committee meeting and the Arts Advisory Committee meeting, and both their recommendations will be coming to us to finalize. And there's more to it this year that we can get into when it comes to us. But yeah, just be aware that this year is going to be a little bit different than the previous years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody further with the committee assignment report? Ms. Snedden.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. For the Water Commission, we heard the wastewater system annual report, and something that will be coming up is the water affordability study. There will be on November 2nd, there's an evening meeting for public outreach to hear from our community about stakeholder engagement and equity in the wastewater rates. I attended the Dia de los Muertos event at the Art Museum, and our poet laureate Melinda Palacio presented and sang, and then there was celebration down the street, and that was a wonderful event. Revere Association with yourself, Mr. Mayor, and also the week before that attended the Upper East Association. Last night we had our State Street Advisory Committee meeting, and also Kachuma Operation and Management Board meeting.
Thank you. Any further reports? All right, very good. We'll then move on to our administrative agenda. You have some items to read, Madam Clerk.
Yes, item 7, exception to the 180-day waiting period to hire a CalPERS retired annuitant in accordance with Government Code Sections 7522.56 and 21224 resolution. Recommendation the council adopt by reading of title only, a resolution approving exception to the 180-day waiting period to hire a CalPERS retired annuitant in accordance with Government Code Section 7522.56 and 21224.
Mr. Doimus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm going to be giving the report today. And this is a request from the City Attorney's Office that the City Council adopt a resolution to waive the CalPERS 180-day waiting period to hire a CalPERS retired annuitant. And as soon as Mr. Doimus gets the PowerPoint presentation, there we go. Next slide, please. So the CalPERS retirees working in any capacity for a CalPERS CalPERS must wait 180 days between their retirement date and the date for new employment with the CalPERS agency. But there's an exception to this rule which allows a retiree to return to work before the expiration of the 180-day period if the agency adopts a resolution that the appointment is necessary to fill a critical need. Next slide, please. So Assistant City Attorney Daniel Henschke is retiring on December 26, 2003. The City Attorney's Office seeks to hire Mr. Henschke as a retired annuitant to fill a critical need for legal services on major projects such as the State Street closure, Charles E. Myers desalinization plant, Paseo Nuevo, and the new police station development project. Waiving the 180-day requirement avoids interruption of legal services and delays on the projects, and will provide a significant savings to the city, because without his legal service, we would have to hire outside legal counsel services at a considerable price. Next slide, please. We have an employment agreement in place for Mr. Henschke. The agreement provides that he will be employed only at the maximum of 960 hours per fiscal year, which is the maximum that he could work. The compensation is hourly, and there'll be no benefits provided to him. He will work solely on the major projects as assigned for a limited duration, and there's no permanent employment. Next slide, please. So we're asking that the City Council today adopt the resolution to provide a waiver of the 180-day waiting period so that he can start working back with us on the part-time basis in January. Thank you, and we're here for questions.
Okay, questions from Ms. Knecht? All righty. With that, I would entertain a motion. I will start with Ms. Snedden.
I'd very happily move this recommendation and thank Mr. Henschke for being willing to stay on with us.
Moved by Snedden, second by Alejandro Gutierrez. She got her name up first. And very good. I have no intention of letting Mr. Henschke go anywhere myself, so may I have the vote, please?
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember.
May want to take public comment. Please, she wants a public comment. Oh, is it general?
We've already closed general public comment. We'll open it again after the meeting. On this agenda item? Okay. You may have 2 minutes at the dais.
I mostly just want to understand what's going on here. From my understanding, you're saying that you're wanting to get an exception to a rule that retired people cannot go ahead and work within this 180-day exception period. But you're also saying you've already hired the man. Have you actually hired him in executive session? I don't believe you have. That's not what my understanding. My understanding is that you're trying to vote here to go ahead and hire him. But according to that information you just provided, you said you already hired him and offered him an agreement to work here. So everything's kind of backwards, willy-nilly. I don't see a parliamentarian here that's actually explaining and making sure this stuff gets done in the proper order. So I'd just like to understand better what's going on. If you would explain it, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right, very good. We'll go back to the vote, please, Madam Clerk. There's a motion and a second on the floor.
This is a motion by Councilmember Snedden, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Alejandro Gutierrez to approve the recommended action. Go ahead and vote, please. Oh, one moment. Let me cancel that, and I will take attendance one more time. Hold on.
My vote was yes.
Okay, now please vote again. This is the motion for the recommended action.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Move on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Item 8, capital program procurement update and need for recommended ballot measure to amend city charter enabling additional procurement options.
Okay, Mr. Demore, Mr. Maurer.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, council members. I was here with a capital improvements program project brief with our very capable city engineer 2 weeks ago. I talked to this subject and I promised you we would be back, and we are back. Go to the next slide, please. Two recommendations today. One is to listen to me again, talk about this very important issue for the city and specifically for Public Works, really capital projects, and how to amend or what we need to do so that we can have procurement methods that will enable us to deliver the highest quality, most efficient product for the city, for our residents, for our taxpayers and our ratepayers. The second recommendation is requesting you to direct staff to initiate steps to place a ballot measure on the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election to amend our charter to give us those options for the procurement. So I'll try to be brief, but I understand, or I recognize that there's also another public audience here that may or may not have heard my pitch before, so I do want to cover the items again. The way our current charter is structured for procurement for capital projects, so the way we enter into contracts with the limited exceptions for water resources related projects, it requires us to award to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. And that's a very low bar. It's not a bad method for certain types of contracts. And if we go ahead with this ballot measure and we're successful, we're not throwing out low bid, technically acceptable contracting, because there's many applications where that is the best method to get the most cost-effective, best quality product for the city. Unfortunately, for a large portion of the contracting we do, we're not in the ballgame anymore. Because contracting has changed over the years. It first started in the private sector and it was adopted starting probably in the early 90s in the public sector. Now we're at a point where almost every charter city in California offers some form of alternate procurement to low bid contracting. And the problem with low bidding, first, as I just stated, because there's other options, putting a bid together costs contractors a lot of money. And if you're one of 8 and you don't get that, you don't win that award, you don't have the lowest responsive and responsible bid, that money is not recouped. That's a business loss. Because there's other options available, certainly for, I would say, the middle to upper tier of contractors, they would prefer to play in the other fields, the other arenas where their quality, performance, their ability to deliver the job on time at a fair price are weighted or higher value than just the lowest bottom line at the time of bid. And because they make that choice, the pool that tends to bid on low bid contractors might not have the higher level of quality, might not. We've seen a lower group of contractors. Not to say that they're all bad. And as I explained last time I was before you, we're unique here in that we're a little bit isolated from metropolitan areas. Logistics and labor are always a challenge when doing work in Santa Barbara for contractors. And what we've seen is, I think, well-intending contractors put in bids in response to our invitation for bids and underestimate what it costs to do work here in Santa Barbara. And as soon as they break ground, or even before then, as they're lining up their labor and their subcontractors for the work, they realize that they're already underwater on the contract. And as I list on this slide, if you're underwater, those are some of the predictable outcomes you're going to get. Poor execution, poor quality, desire to make up the financial losses that you're having through change orders. So therefore, the relationship with the owner, us, the city, becomes adversarial. It takes a lot of staff time, which is money, because that's time staff can't be spending on other projects as well. And in the end, if the project doesn't end well, we tend to see claims which require legal time. All that's expensive. If we go to court, that's expensive. And I think probably most frustrating, if you talk to my counterparts, other department heads, their frustration is the impact on their operations and projects that don't get delivered on time, and how that impacts them. So go to the next slide. What we're the ballot measure is pretty simple. It states that we want to have expanded options for contracting. The details will be in the supporting ordinances, which Mr. Henschke, with help from my staff, have drafted, and they'll be available for everyone to read. These are the procurement methods that we're asking for the city to entertain with the expanded options. The first is for small contracts to give my position, Director of Public Works, the ability to direct negotiate off a list of qualified contractors, and the barrier to entry to get on that list is very low. If you have the proper licensure, you can get on that list. And for $75,000, as you know, that's a very small number when it comes to doing construction work. If you even think about residential construction, $75,000 is a very low number. The reason for that is if you go out and get quotes or bids, the downside or the upside for a contractor to bid on that small of a job is very low. The downside is, of course, higher, and what we found is contractors it's just not worth the business decision to participate. And then we're frustrated that we have what we see as a relatively small job. Example would be office renovation or a minor restroom renovation. That we think we have a problem, we want to solve it quickly, but we can't because we just can't get a responsible contractor in a short period of time to do it. I've experienced doing this under a general law city using the California Uniform Public Contracting Cost Accounting Act, or commonly known as CUPCA, which is part of the Public Contracting Code. And it allows it allows up to $60,000 for direct negotiation, and chose a slightly higher number just because the cost in Santa Barbara is slightly higher than it is across the state of California. But what we find is a couple contractors get on that list, and although they don't make much money on each individual job, they develop a good reputation with the city, get repeat work, and it's someone we build a relationship with, a couple contractors, and then we can depend on them to get the work done. As I said earlier, it's easy to get on the list, but the power there is if they don't perform well, if they don't give us good value for the money, we'll have criteria as to how they can be removed from the list, and then we make sure an underperforming contractor does not stay in business with the city of Santa Barbara, just as any individual who would be going out and contracting wouldn't go give repeat business to someone who has not performed fairly for them. The second portion of that, also mirrored under the CUPCA regulations for general law city, is the informal bidding. And there too, we will set firm criteria for having contractors get on a list with the city. And this is a little bit different in that the category of work they do will be distinguished, such as if they're a roofing contractor, a painting contractor, electrical contractor. We have smaller projects, and $750,000 and less is, $500,000 and less is a small construction contract. We can go to a bid process to all contractors that qualify on that list. They would put in a bid. We would not have to go full plans and specs, shop drawings, and our normal boilerplate for the contract. We can award quicker. We can negotiate terms of the contract, and then we can execute it. The real value here and the major intention of what the staff is asking for here are larger contracts, over $500,000. I list three specific types of procurement. The one that I envision that we would use most often would be best value contracting. And that instead of going out for an invitation for bid, we go out for a request for proposal. You qualify contractors typically ahead of time, and of the qualified contractors, you ask those to put together a proposal based on plans and specs. You have a set of criteria. In fact, if you could go to the next slide, and then we'll jump back here. You have a set of criteria ahead of time, so all the proposers understand what those criteria is as to what they are going to bid on, or what they're going to propose on, and how they are going to be selected. Some examples: cost will always be a criteria, so cost will always be a factor and be weighted amongst the others. Prior experience, past performance, and that past performance can be specific. Past performance with cities similar to Santa Barbara, or past performance with the city of Santa Barbara can be a criteria. In addition, what personnel they're going to put on a project, that can be in their proposal. Their technical approach could be very important to us, and typically within technical approach is schedule. So if we're doing a project that's going to be impactful on the community, it might be worth more for us to hire a contractor or award to a contractor that can perform it in half the time of their competition. And we might be willing to pay a little bit more to get that done to lessen the impact on our residents and businesses. So those are, and one I don't have up here, but I find very important is safety. In the workers' comp world, you have what's called the experience modification rate, EMR. All licensed construction contractors have to track their EMR in order to get their workers' comp insurance. And there is plenty of data, direct correlation that says contractors with a low EMR, which is good, you'd like to be 1 or lower, with a low EMR tend to have much better schedule performance and much higher quality. And when you have good quality and good schedule performance, you tend to have less change orders. And in the end, the cost of the contract to the owner might even be lower than what you would have gotten through a low bid. If we could go back, just the other two methods, I don't envision us using a lot, but I think they're important tools to have in the toolbox. That's a design-build contract. Instead of going out and doing the normal two-step process where the city hires an architect engineer firm to do the design for the contract, Once we go through that entire process and put together a set of plans and specs, then go into the procurement for the general contractor. In this case, you put together what's called a bridging document up front, and then you have a general contractor, usually in partnership. There are some general contractors that have internal architects and engineers within their firm, but usually they do it as a joint venture, and usually with about 30% design in this bridging document. They take it from that point forward, and it tends to provide you a quicker delivery mechanism, usually at pretty fair pricing. The downside for staff is there's a lot of work to be done up front. The upside for staff is once you award, they tend to go smoothly. And the other is construction manager at risk. And as I noted on here, this is for very large projects. As I stated a couple weeks ago, a good example of a construction manager at risk contract that you see every day is Granite's relationship with Caltrans District 5 on our 101 widening project. That's a construction manager at risk project. My observation, discussions, professional opinion, it's going very well. Caltrans and Granite have a great relationship, and they've been sticking to schedule so far with some really challenging requirements. An example where the city might use a project like that, unfortunately it's too late for us, would have been the police station 3 years ago. Had we had this authority, that would have been a great project to enter into that form of procurement. The huge advantages with a construction manager at risk contract, at the point when usually around 80 to 90% design, the general contractor locks in to say they will continue and execute the project, and with that comes a guaranteed maximum price. And for any owner, that is really nice to have. That's before you even break ground. So in order, again, just to repeat, in order to do all this, we need to amend our charter to provide some options. So go next slide. Again, the second, you've heard the first part of the recommendation, so the second part is to direct staff to initiate procedural steps to place a ballot measure on the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election. And the last slide I have is just a rudimentary timeline for the ballot measure, which first line is right now, in 2 weeks from today. If you do give us that direction, the city attorney with the city clerk will come back and explain to you, or provide the resolution, explain to you the further steps necessary, and then of course hopefully we prevail at the election in March, and then we need the certification of the election results to put that in our charter. So with that, I stand by for any questions.
All right, questions from council. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Mr. Maurer. Can you remind me on that tier of a project size, so they're under 75,000, the 75 to $500,000, and the $500,000 above, which of those come to council still for approval?
That would still fall under our current authorities. I don't know if
Mayor Rouse, Councilmember Jordan, currently it would be anything under 35,000. We will be asking council to increase that. That was set quite a while ago, and so likely that would be at the 75 or 100,000 if council approves increasing that authority.
So it would at least tag with the smaller number here, right?
That's correct.
They would have some connection. And then, just so I understand this right, the greatest value here, right, is, I don't know what's in the charter, from that part of the charter, but we're getting rid of the low bid requirement, right? That's the golden ring?
well, I have the lawyer, the superb lawyer beside me. I don't know that, I don't like the word getting rid of. We're expanding our procurement options.
So let me ask my next question and then just tell me if I'm on the right track. So if that's my words, my simple words, then the enabling ordinances or resolutions would do all the down in the weeds work. And once you have removed yourself from this ages-old requirement of low bid and should need change in the future, at any time the council could change the enabling ordinances or resolutions to adjust those tiers, or the other mechanism doesn't have to go back to another charter vote. Does that sound right?
Honorable Chair, members of the council, that's correct.
All right, sold. Thank you.
Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Just a couple questions. First of all, thank you for being proactive with this and looking at how to get a better value. So the first question is, what is the current change order process? So say someone knows they're coming in as a low bid, and we expect that a project will cost more than that, or other bids are coming in at more realistic, but then we have to take the lowest by current policy. What is the change, or how many times can someone come and request a change order currently under the current?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Sneddon, give you a lawyer, it depends. There's multiple different types of change orders. One can be owner requested. So if once we've awarded the contract, as long as it's within the scope that council gave us authority to award that contract, especially for larger contracts, as they're proceeding, we can look at something and say, yeah, we didn't want that wall there, we want to move it over here. That would be a owner requested change order, and we'd ask the contractor to provide us a quote to do that changed work, and then we negotiate and incorporate that into the contract. What we typically see from contractors, especially as I described earlier, that are challenged financially, is they are looking for any possible difference between what is in the plans and specifications and what they encounter in the field. And then they also look for any conflict between the plans and specifications. And we do have rules as to what has precedent, but instead of putting their emphasis on getting the work done, they're looking to make up money, and there is no limit. Every request for equitable adjustment they provide us, we have a responsibility to review and then counter. And if we say that we don't believe that it's a fair request, we'll say 0, but then they can come back and claim against us. So typically in a best value situation, certainly in a design build where there's not this inherent conflict between the design and the contractor, the contractors look to make their money by performing quickly and cutting down on overtime. So they're not looking to nickel and dime, to use a term of art within the construction industry. The owner, they're looking to complete the project.
Thank you. And for the going to the different options, would you designate ahead of time it's going to be a design build, or which format, or do you see what comes in and then you know that those 4 bullet points are what you're?
No, we would do what I would call procurement strategy at the inception of the project, and decide and talk to, if we were doing a project for Ms. Zachary in Parks and Rec, would talk to her about what her objectives are, how she, what her concerns. Is schedule the biggest driver? What level of quality do you need? You don't need the same quality for everything. And so all those factors go in, and then we decide what procurement method best fits the needs of the city. And then that's what we would come to council with and say, this is what we're looking for.
So it's individualized projects. Okay. And then just why does this need to go to a vote on a ballot versus us being able to make a policy decision?
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, because your current charter limits you specifically to one method of procurement. It's in the charter. And so in order to take full advantage of your abilities as a charter city over a municipal fair, which is what contracting is, you need to amend the charter so that basically the voters then free you of the constraint of the charter by saying you now have the power to, by ordinance, establish other methods of procurement.
Thank you. And just last question, is there any other area that this would impact within the charter? I know there's often a wariness about opening up the charter. And so does this open up the charter in outside of this narrow scope?
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? We have a public comment on this item. Margaret Croco?
Good afternoon, Mayor Rouse and City Council members. My name is Margaret Croco. I'm Chair of the Santa Barbara Library Advisory Board. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on the ballot measure regarding the change that's just been described. As you all know, the library has experienced numerous delays and problems with the three-part project currently underway there. In an August article in The Independent, Public Works Director Cliff Moore characterized the problems with the project in these terms. The contractor, he said, quote, had some challenges sticking to the schedule. They got behind, unquote. I would describe Director Moore's characterization as a considerable, if somewhat understandable, understatement. The Independent has also reported recently that the city has nearly 60 projects completed or in the works this year, with a total cost of about $160 million. In addition, the city will be spending over $1.5 billion over the next 5 years on capital improvement projects. Thus, the library's construction project might be viewed as a canary in the coal mine, a warning sign concerning the problems that might arise with future projects without a change in the city's charter, allowing for this modification as has been described. 2 weeks ago, City Engineer Brian Demore addressed our advisory board about the many challenges associated with the over $10 million project at the library. He also described the changes that have been described here under the header Best Value Formulation. Since the inception of the library's project, the number of change orders presented by the Nationwide Construction Company would suggest that the low bid award of a contract for this work represented a false economy. These change orders have resulted in increased cost for the project well beyond the original bid, as well as numerous delays. I hope you will all vote favorably to put this change to city voters in the March election. I also hope that you will continue to provide oversight and engagement with the library's project so that all aspects of the construction are successfully completed in early 2024. Thanks for this consideration, and thank you for all that you do for the city of Santa Barbara.
And thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any commenters online for this item?
No hands raised.
Okay, very good. Back to council, and Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion in a second, but I just want to say clearly this modernizes the techniques that you can use to avoid exactly those type of situations. And even while some may have concern with a change in charter terms, it still offers any council in the future the opportunity to actually change those working details under this change, to adjust it if it needs further adjustment, or even to bring it back into a little more restricted control status. So I wholeheartedly agree with this change, and I'll make the motion for the staff recommendation to initiate the procedural steps for placement on a ballot measure on the March 5, 2024 primary election.
Mr. Friedman.
I'll second the motion and just wanted to echo the comments. And Mr. Demore gave a good presentation at the library board a couple weeks ago that really articulated this. And at the end of the day, it's about having a strategy where you can get a higher quality product, and in some cases you might even be able to get it cheaper. So why wouldn't we do that? And it also gives us the flexibility, like Member Jordan was was talking about, especially with the police station coming up, and we're going to need the different options that we think is the best for that particular project because it's so unique. So to hopefully have a new system in place that gives us different options on how to take that project to fruition will be a large benefit. So happy to second the motion.
All right, very good. And if there's no further discussion, we'll go to vote.
Very good. This is a motion by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Friedman for the recommended actions for item 8. Go ahead and vote, please.
Vote passes unanimously. Thank you. And given the time and the anticipated time for the interviews, should we go to closed session for the?
Mayor Rouse, I think you have a number of people in the audience who are here for interviews. If you wanted to start the interviews now, you could do that. Or
Can
you
we
could-
have some order in the chamber, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Would you repeat yourself, please, Madam
You
Clerk?
have a couple of people here for interviews. If you wanted to start the
You
interviews
know, we
now-
actually could, since you people have been here and you have to sit here and wait for us to come back out, so we can do that, and then if we find time, we could.
Yeah, if you have sufficient time, you could begin your closed session.
All right, very good. Well, since there are three of you, rather than go in order, I'm going to ask you to come up one at a time. Tell us what you're applying for, if you would, ma'am. Oh, you're not, ma'am. You're David. And also, I'm going to try to limit to around 3 minutes if we may. So there's the
Certainly.
timer on the dice, if
This
you
will be
wouldn't mind.
short. Good afternoon, Mayor Rouse and City Council members. My name is David Rowell, and I've had the pleasure of serving as the Housing Authority Commissioner for the past 4 years. I would really appreciate your support to serve another 4 years. Prior to being a Housing Authority Commissioner, I was employed at the City of Santa Barbara as the Housing Project Planner in the Community Development Department. Prior to that, I was the Director of Fannie Mae's Western Regional Office in Los Angeles. I've spent the past 30 years working on the affordable housing and homelessness challenge. During the past 4 years, as a Housing Authority Commissioner, we've had many great successes working with the City of Santa Barbara on projects such as Veracruz Village, Jacaranda Court, which is also known as the Castile Commuter Parking Lot, and the office conversion on State Street. However, the most significant thing that we're currently working on is to establish a housing trust fund, which includes a permanent source of funding for affordable housing. The bonus with this is the Housing Trust Fund also has match funding that would come from the state potentially and could be really a game changer as it relates to accelerating the production of affordable housing and making a significant contribution to the RHNA numbers in the city's housing element. The Housing Authority is a great partner of the City of Santa Barbara and has many new exciting affordable housing projects in the queue for the next few years. The Housing Authority is a very well-run organization. The commissioners are a diverse group with diverse backgrounds, with very strong housing knowledge. I think we've done a good job of overseeing the Housing Authority and offered some creative solutions as well. I'm very passionate about assisting the City of Santa Barbara with affordable housing and homelessness solutions, and it is a truly big challenge in this city. I would like to continue contributing as a Housing Authority Commissioner and very much appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rowell? Well, we appreciate all your efforts over the years.
It was short.
Yeah, we appreciate that too, actually.
Thank you.
And come on up. He actually works here already.
Never mind. Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Michael Rassler. I am the president and CEO at Hillside, which is a local nonprofit, actually recognized just last week.
Tell us which board you're applying for, Mr. Rassler, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm applying for continued service on the Access Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
I've been serving on that for the past 3 years, shortly after becoming the president and CEO at Hillside. As I was starting to say, it is a residential intermediate care facility, an ICF, for adults living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. My experience there and working with that population positions me, I think, very well to continue service on the Access Advisory Committee, working with my colleagues there to advance the city's accessibility, integration, inclusivity for our community members living with disabilities of a variety, intellectual, developmental, and physical. At present, I'm on a subcommittee to ensure that our special events in the city, Fiesta, Solstice, the parades, all the different festivals that we have, are and continue to be fully accessible so that everybody in the community can truly enjoy and partake. Similarly, we have members on the committee, and I've served in the past to help with the parklets and ensuring that their continued use, operation, development, and the vision for them, provide complete accessibility so that when we say it's a wonderful community benefit for the entire Santa Barbara community, it really is. I not only enjoy and value the role of advocate on behalf of this population, but having gotten to know them, working with them, and considering many of them not only as friends but family, this particular committee, the Access Advisory Committee, goes beyond its own narrow focus and work, and actually has a much larger role that has been revealed recently in terms of working with all of the bodies of government here in Santa Barbara. And we've just begun that process. I want to continue with that. I'm passionate about it. I care about it. I care about the people it serves. I care about Santa Barbara. I hope you will give me the opportunity to continue to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Rasslin?
Thank you
very much, and thank you for coming in and applying. Madam Minister, I would ask maybe my colleagues if we'd like to entertain doing the closed session now. Yes. Switching the agenda up and going into closed session and coming back out to finish up with the interviews. That work for everyone? Yes. Okay, we will adjourn to closed session.
Does
and
the clerk want to read the item, please?
Oh, and we could do that too.
Item 11, public employment, public employee appointments as described in agenda item 11.
And there's a potential report out after this.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll be back. on to the next item. You have an item to read, Madam Clerk?
We're at item 9, interviews for city advisory groups.
Okay, very good. And I have a request to have Lee Heller go first, even though she's, not on alphabetically correct, but because she needs a special time, and she's got the only time that she can do this. If you would, Lee Heller, come on up, and 3 minutes is what we're trying to limit everybody to. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and thank you for your flexibility. I'm out of the country the next 2 weeks, and today is my birthday, and I have plans.
Oh, so this is your birthday present.
So that's my
Congratulations.
birthday present, and it's a very nice one, and it was pretty cheap, so thank you very much. So I am applying to be reappointed to the Creeks Advisory Committee. You were gracious enough to appoint me a year and a half ago. I guess I was filling someone else's term. I am currently the chair, and I'm really appreciating the opportunity to serve the city and learn about this extraordinary program. I think it's probably less well-known than it should be, despite the dedicated efforts of Cameron Benson, who unfortunately, as you've probably heard, is retiring at the end of the year, and the dedicated staff of the Sustainability Division, as well as my fellow committee members. So it's been a real opportunity for me, also interacting with Councilmember Sneddon, who is the liaison to the committee, to get to understand the program. As many of you know, I've been an environmental activist in this community for over 20 years, and this is a chance to really put that interest to work at a very concrete level, looking at some very basic city programs and core components of the natural environment and how it interacts with the community, because we're all touched by creeks, often without being aware that we are. So learning about educational programs, I've served on the education subcommittee. Understanding how Measure B funds help to serve this program has been a really exciting opportunity. And I appreciate the chance to participate in the work of the city. I'm able to attend pretty much every meeting, although I will miss the next one being out of the country. So I hope you are willing to consider me for reappointment. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Heller? All right, thanks very much. And we're going to go back to the Access Advisory Committee. Is anybody here for that? There we go. And you can use that microphone right there.
I don't mind, I'll stand.
Okay, you can use that one. Very good.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Suzanne Kortz Tejada, and I've been serving on the Access Advisory Committee since 2019. And I'm terming out, and I'm here to ask for reappointment. And I am a City of Santa Barbara resident. I actually grew up in Goleta. I'm a licensed architect practicing here in Santa Barbara. I've been here practicing architecture since 2002. My initial background was in commercial. So I do have experience with ADA and the Title II, Title 24. And I do know a lot about the access code. And I think that my experience as an architect working in commercial, also residential here in Santa Barbara, along with my mobility disability, kind of brings a good perspective to the issues that are presented to the Access Committee. So I do appreciate being on that, to hear what's going on in Santa Barbara, and I hope that you would consider my reappointment. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for this applicant? Thank you very much, and
All
thank
right,
you for
thank you very
serving.
much.
Anyone else for Access Advisory Committee? Move on to Architectural Board of Review. Okay. Arts Advisory Committee. There we go.
I'll let you get started.
Hello, Mayor and council members. I'm Margie Ayavi. I've served on the Arts Advisory Committee for a couple terms. I'm up for reappointment. I just recently retired as the executive director for Santa Barbara Education Foundation, where I served for 13 years. And in that position, I made the whole organization really put a high priority to inclusion of the arts in the school system. And I feel like that's really important to bring to the committee, including the schools in our activities. It's been a good experience being on the committee. There's a couple questions, specific questions that you guys sent to us. What was the most significant or rewarding experience during my tenure? And of course, Pianos on State was one that I helped get going, which is, I think, on right now. Tiny Libraries on State is also a sort of an artistic expression, at the same time combining that with the love of literacy and reading. And for a while, we had public installations on State Street. We haven't had them for a while. It was a vetted process, and having artists install art on State Street. One of the ones you might remember was artist Luis Vasquez, who did that paper airplane one, if you remember that one, and quite a few other ones. And I think those are really great to encourage and to support for our city. As you guys are probably very well aware, the art, we commissioned a study a few years ago about the impact of the arts on the economic vitality of the city, and I don't remember what the amount was, but it was a lot. It was surprisingly a lot of economic inflow into the city because of the arts. And as we are a tourist city, I'd love to encourage you to maybe, when you're doing your budget, which I know is a touchy subject probably, put as much money as you can into the grant program for arts organizations. We just finished a process of reviewing grants a couple weeks ago. And there's a ton of really good organizations in town that can use financial support and bring experiences to the city of Santa Barbara. What else? I don't know, do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Yayave?
Well, thank you for considering my reappointment, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Next up, Ms. Yost.
Hi, I'm Chris Yost. I am here today with my poetry hat on. And I know that this advisory group, more specifically a committee overseen by this advisory group, usually appoints the Poet Laureate of Santa Barbara. And I've been very honored to serve as Poet Laureate. I'm super interested in this program. And I know that the Arts Advisory Group is tasked with recommending for council approval an annual set of goals and objectives that will serve the visual, performing, literary, and multimedia arts. Sometimes literary is the one that gets kind of overlooked. It's hard to put literary on State Street, as compared to sculptures or paintings. So since my passion is literary arts, I would love to be part of this committee. I was selected as Poet Laureate in 2013, and during my tenure as laureate, my fellow laureate, David Starkey, and I launched an independent poetry press. The name of the press honors our city's namesake, St. Barbara, who is the patron saint of gunpowder. Gunpowder Press has since published more than 25 books of poetry, including collections of Santa Barbara area poets. For many local poets, being in a Gunpowder Press book is their first time in print. Gunpowder Press has helped make the literary arts in Santa Barbara more visible on a national level, and I'm proud to be the co-editor of that press, and I also publish books as Sun Gold editions. Prior to becoming Poet Laureate, I served for many years on the Santa Barbara Book Council that produced the Santa Barbara Book and Author Festival. I've hosted the Santa Barbara Poetry Series and other events that give poets a space to perform in our community. I have frequently collaborated with museums and artists, including the Santa Barbara Museum of Art and the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, to create opportunities for people to engage with poetry. I've taught poetry to students at the Santa Barbara Music and Arts Conservatory, as well as through California Poets in the Schools and at UCSB. I'm an experienced collaborator and am active in the local poetry community. I would like to be appointed to this city advisory group, especially to provide more opportunities for writers and poets to be made visible in our community. There are ample opportunities to celebrate the intersections of visual, performing, and literary arts. Collaboration between poets, artists, and local institutions is one of the things I love most about poetry. This Poet Laureate program is specifically very close to my heart. The committee initiated some significant changes during the last cycle to the Poet Laureate program without input from the poetry community or from the previous laureates. And there are not that many opportunities for poets to be seen in the community. It's kind of an under-the-radar type of thing most of the time. And so I'm concerned that this one program that we have is at risk of being redefined in a way that really pushes poetry to the margins. So I would like to see that program restored to its original mission.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Yost?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up for Arts Advisory Committee. Okay, we'll move on to the Civil Service Commission.
Mr. Mayor, councilpersons, my name is Alan Casehagen. If you're under 50, I've been working in local government for that long, academically, work-wise, and volunteering. I have a bachelor's degree in history and political science from UCSB, a master's in public administration from San Diego State. I did internships with the county administrator's office in the city of Chula Vista. I had both the perspective of county and city services. I worked for 36 and a half years for the county of Santa Barbara, 6.5 in personnel doing test development and recruitment, 30 years in the public health department, the majority of the time as their human resources manager. I've had the pleasure and the experience of seeing the full array of HR issues. I supervise the payroll function, and one of the things I had, I don't know if I call it pleasure, but I had the responsibility for was dealing with disciplinary issues. I worked with supervisors, managers, and employees in trying to help to resolve issues that came up. When they weren't resolved, my responsibility was to prepare the Skelly letter, which in local government, if you propose to take disciplinary action against an employee above a reprimand, you have to give them this letter that says, we propose to take this action. Employee has an opportunity to respond. So I understand what goes into getting to the point where an employee says, I want to appeal this proposed action. I've been doing this for 20 years with the city. I've enjoyed it. I'm now retired. I have the time, I have the motivation, and I think I have the background to continue to do this. One of the things that the commission did over the past few years is we revised the hearing procedures so that it was very clear, both to an employee, a union organization, and the city, what the process needs to be to get to the point of the hearing. And this came about because we had a number of hearings where things got kind of messed up. We convened the whole group, and we had to postpone it because something hadn't happened. So we're really proud of that particular effort. The one thing that we could do better, we are one of those commissions where we don't have a full membership. We're a 5-member commission. We currently have 4. Prior to the 4th member being appointed about a year ago, we went a couple of years with only 3. So we've tried to assist city HR in recruiting members, and so far, that's one thing we haven't been too successful on. But I would like to continue in this role. I enjoy it, and I think I do a good job.
Thank you. Are there questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on the Civil Service Commission? Community Development and Human Services Committee, doesn't look like there's anybody there. Yes? Did you fill, for the Community Development and Human Services Committee, oh, there we are. Are you Ms. Hamilton Rowley?
I am.
There we go.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Jenna Hamilton Roll. I am the current chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee, here seeking reappointment to that committee. Throughout my time, some of the most meaningful things that I've done, well, I think everybody has told me that I'm on the Feel Good Committee, and it's not untrue. I get to work with a fabulous group of people. like Jacob, who's here today, to provide funds to our community that keep it thriving and flourishing. A bit about myself. I am currently the Director of Education and Community Engagement for UCSB Arts and Lectures. Prior to that, I was the Director of Education at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History and Sea Center, as well as an instructor at Santa Barbara City College. My focus has been providing accessible, high-quality education and meeting our community where they're at. And I use every platform that I have to do that. I've worked with K through 12 in all of my capacities, both formal and informal, as well as those who are sort of bridging the gap from high school into college. Yeah, I think that. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. I just have one question about the categorization of the, first of all, thank you for your service, and we need you, and I hope you continue. Listed under youth-oriented service organizations, is that through UCSB?
Correct.
Or is there another category?
Through UCSB.
Okay.
We do K through 12 community education through the Viva el Arte de Santa Barbara program that provides free Spanish-only education throughout our schools.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions for this applicant? All right, thank you very much. Move on to Community Events and Festivals Committee. Creeks Advisory Committee. There we go.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Thanks for having me. My name is Chris Klein. I am currently on the Creeks Advisory Committee and fulfill the position of Vice Chair. My term was abbreviated because I believe I came on in place with someone who had left, and so it's time for me to reapply. I'd very much like to be a part of the Creeks Advisory Committee. As a reminder, also, I am the lodging liaison member. Over time that I've been on the committee, I have learned a great deal about creeks and water than I ever thought I would have learned. It's been really quite a learning process to understand kind of the point of the dollars from Measure B and how they have positively affected the city and water quality. So it's been really a learning process that I've enjoyed, and I look forward to learning more. As a part of the skill set that I've gained as a part of being the committee, being a part of the committee, it's really just so much more knowledge about what this committee does and what this department does. The money that's gone into support water quality, working to be sure that these waterways are set up so that clean water, when it flows to the ocean, is flowing into the ocean clean rather than polluted. Priorities that I would hope to be able to influence the board in my next term really are trying to leverage some of the investment that Measure B has brought to the Creeks Committee. We have this beautiful environment that we call Santa Barbara, and the work that this committee has done over time has really improved these areas. These are absolutely beautiful areas with clean water. In my view, as someone who's in the lodging business, that's an opportunity to leverage that and identify that we have an opportunity for ecotourism to come into Santa Barbara and interact with these projects that we have done a beautiful job of creating. We've created these great environments. They have clean water. We can talk about the successes that this department's had over time. And there are people out there who travel specifically for this purpose. And many of them live in Southern California and would be happy to drive, more than likely, an electric vehicle from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara to enjoy that. So I'm hopeful that I can bring those types of ideas to the Creeks Advisory Committee and really show a way that we might be able to leverage the investment that Measure B's brought into the committee into helping attract some more tourism.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Klein?
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much for your time today.
Anyone else for Creeks Advisory Committee? Downtown Parking Committee. I know who that is.
Mayor Rouse and council members, thanks for the opportunity. I am asking for reappointment to the Downtown Parking Committee. I've served for about 5.5 years now, and it's been a really rewarding experience to slowly learn the complexities of the downtown parking operations and all the challenges that we're now facing. That's why I think it's a really interesting opportunity over the next 4 years to really think about how the sands have shifted downtown and where downtown parking fits in to the other issues. Certainly with the pandemic, we saw a significant loss of revenues, and we're now trying to figure out how we balance those books and build up our reserves once again. It's a really daunting challenge, but something that I'm really excited to dive into. And in that vein, I joined the Finance Subcommittee of Downtown Parking this fall, as we're really trying to work through all the different ways we may look at revenue and be able to give the council a recommendation that will be supportable as part of the budget considerations moving forward, as I know that's been a bit of a challenge over the last couple of years. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about moving forward. I think it's a really challenging issue, but something that we really want to figure out for the short term and midterm in terms of financial stability of the enterprise fund. I'm a land use planner by practice, so I always kind of think about how downtown parking fits in with the rest of the land use considerations downtown and how those things are changing with the state elimination of parking in downtown Santa Barbara. I think there's opportunities to leverage our downtown parking to facilitate the changes in land use while also increasing our own revenues in different ways. And so that's something I'd really be excited to look at. And also how downtown parking fits in with the State Street Master Plan over the next 4 years. The hope would be implementation would be during this next 4-year term, and trying to think how we can help facilitate those implementations and creating a really viable, vibrant downtown. We have a lot of vacancy in our lots, and so I think we have this really great resource to be utilized flexibly, kind of as part of the larger conversation along State Street. So those are some of the reasons that I'd be really excited to continue. I'm able to have the time, I'm able to devote the attention I think these issues warrant, and I hope you'll consider me for reappointment.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Newkirk? All right, thank you very much. Move on to the Harbor Commission. Mr. McCray.
Mayor Rouse, council members, I am Merritt McCray, and I have served as a member of your Harbor Commission since 2016. As a Harbor Commissioner, I understand and expect to spend time each month in preparation of our monthly meetings. I offer extensive experience at the Santa Barbara Harbor. I have worked within the harbor community since 1976, first as an employee and captain at Sea Landing, and then as a boat owner and operator there for 2 decades. As a local mariner, I bring strong knowledge of the harbor and long-term affiliations with many of the people and businesses there. I feel I'm well respected. In addition, I'm familiar with the geophysical processes that challenge the maintenance and upkeep of our harbor and the associated facilities at Stearns Wharf. I'm familiar with the funding sources that the harbor relies on and the requirements we need to fulfill. In the past, I have myself come before the Harbor Commission to bring my concerns before it, and I know what it's like to stand at this podium before it. I want to see the harbor continue to maintain its natural charm and charismatic attractiveness, one which brings locals and tourists to enjoy the opportunities and access it provides. Our harbor maintains a vibrant maritime culture and healthy balance between complementary recreational and commercial uses. You'll see I've gone question by question here. As a member of the Harbor Commission, I'm proud to give back to my community and participate in a meaningful way. The Harbor Commission and waterfront staff together work to maintain our harbor's character and ambiance. Our harbor provides Santa Barbarans and visitors with an attractive destination as well as access to the Santa Barbara Channel, the Channel Islands, and their rich resources. Our harbor supports a vibrant fishing community, charming restaurants and shops, working waterfront and wharf. I want to see this synergistic success continue into the future. I'm well familiar with the faces of the harbor and waterfront, as well as the physical challenge we face each season regarding the use of space and safety of navigation. I will continue to be accessible and considerate of all stakeholders' perspectives. I endeavor to comply with the established harbor, city, and coastal policy closely, consistently, fairly and compassionately. I will prioritize coastal-dependent uses of waterfront resources over those that could equally be pursued away from the waterfront, in keeping with the general theme of the Coastal Act's directives and our public trust tidelands. As a current incumbent, I note that this past winter was a rough one for our harbor staff, one with local weather challenges, the likes of which many newer members had not yet experienced. It was rewarding to see the old hands step in as needed, and the team ultimately meet those many challenges head-on. As a result, our harbor emerged with outstanding results. We came away with a staff well-versed in preparing for and coping with the unique challenges Mother Nature throws at us here. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. McCray? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Hi.
Hi, I'm Amber Noel, and shoot, how do I follow that for the Harbor Commission? Thank you so much. That was really nice to hear, actually. I am a liveaboard in Marina One and a yacht club applicant, and I've been living in Santa Barbara for 26 years. I am very interested in this advisory committee. I was at UCSB for over 20 years and unable to really get involved in the community. And now I'm over at Cottage Hospital recently, and my time has freed up to allow more opportunities within the community. The harbor is such an extremely eclectic group of people and businesses and the cruise ships that come in. I woke up this morning at 5:30 and there's a giant cruise ship there. And I would love to be a part of the operations and what decisions need to be made and help move those forward. I think the harbor runs really well, the waterfront runs really well, and I'm interested in being a part of that. I'm friends with the urchin divers and the fishermen, and I'm an environmentalist. My master's degree is in environmental science and management, with a focus in marine toxicology, including pollution prevention and remediation. So I feel like I can offer a lot to this board, along with my experience at UCSB in academia. I am interested to find out what sort of education programs that the harbor has for the general community. I hear, things from the Independent and on the radio, but I don't really know the actual educational programs, and I'd like to be a part of that to get our community more involved. Again, there's such a huge, vast amount of operation in such a very small physical space. And so seeing the resources that are allocated to that, parking and land management and liveaboards, safety is a big concern of mine. I don't come home after 9 o'clock because I am a liveaboard, so safety is also a priority for me on this board. And yeah, it's really interesting. I love living there, and I've learned so much just being a community member within the harbor. So, any questions?
Very good. Any questions from Ms. Noel?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for Harbor Commission? Historic Landmarks Commission.
Hello, Mayor, and hello, council members. My name is Stephanie Rose Farmer. I'm a native of Santa Barbara. Went to school here, Santa Barbara High, all the way to City College. I'm applying for the public at large position at HLC. I understand the basic and general actions of HLC. Most important, of course, is to secure the historic landmarks in Santa Barbara. My grandparents came here in the 1918s, and they lived on Gray Avenue. And so I have a history of Santa Barbara. I love Santa Barbara. I worked at Santa Barbara Research as a quality assurance supervisor, and I retired from a nonprofit organization as the Associate Director of Human Resources. It was a nonprofit organization. I'm willing to share my knowledge, and being a native here, I was brought to the attention of this commission by my granddaughter, where she was researching some historical items in Santa Barbara. And I had pulled out my aunt's yearbook from Santa Barbara High School, 1939. And surprisingly, there was a map of Santa Barbara that showed the historical sites there. One was, that kind of upset me, was Franklin School, which was at that map in 1939, but does not exist now. I was brought up on Gray Avenue and attended, we moved actually from Gray Avenue to the east side, and that's where I attended Franklin School. But I just want to say, in essence, that I would like to share my knowledge, being African American also, here with HLC. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Question from Ms. Farm. Ms. Snedden.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse, and thank you, Ms. Farmer, for applying. And in your application, you mentioned, and I think we know this, that you were active in the African American and Black historic context statement, the development of that. And if you could just share with us some of that experience, the importance of that, and how that related to HLC.
Well, just basically, I did get involved with the historical commission when it had to do with Second Baptist Church, which I was a member of. I learned a lot. I was able to communicate with a lot of our neighbors that were there at Santa Barbara Baptist Church. So basically, that's kind of all of my interest at that particular time.
Thank you.
All right, further questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anybody else for HLC?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Michael Drury. I'm a current member of the Historic Landmarks Commission. I'd like to apply for another go-around. And I guess briefly, historically, I'm a native Santa Barbaran and artist by trade, a landscape painter by trade, and I'm a co-founder of the Oak Group. And any questions?
Question is for Mr. Drury. Ms. Snedden.
Thank you. I have a question, I think not maybe for Mr. Drury, but maybe for the clerk. There's one vacancy, and then the category, it looks like it's any one of those categories. Can you help us with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Snedden, all the current thresholds for the Historic Landmarks Commission have been met, so any one of these applicants would qualify based on fitting into any of the categories that are available.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll ask Mr. Drury if I could ask a follow-up question. And I think since you have had a long tenure on the committee,
Yes.
what stands out to you as what is the future right now for HLC? What are the big issues?
Oh, my goodness. Well, my experience on the Historic Landmarks Commission is, as you say, quite long. I'm honored every meeting because we have a really wonderful cadre of architects and designers and so on. I think the future is, I see that there's a sort of a historical crunch coming into Santa Barbara with the State Street, De La Guerra Plaza, all these projects are coming. I think that it is important for us to stay within our charter. I think that's of critical importance. There's plenty of work to be done within the confines of the charter of our commission. I think that's the challenge. We often would like to step further out than that, but we shouldn't. Even though as a Santa Barbara, I have deep feelings about these projects, but I can't let that get in the way of determining what's right in terms of a particular project. So I would say that keeping within our charter is kind of paramount to me.
Thank you.
All right, further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else for historic landmarks?
Hi, my name is Sophie Rosera, and I was also born and raised in Santa Barbara, and recently moved back about 3 years ago after I graduated Sarah Lawrence and studied urban planning. And I applied because I think it's really important to have younger representation, especially following the Historic Landmarks Commission. I live right above the Presidio, and one of my favorite hobbies is just to go around and explore the architecture, and I am a substitute teacher for the Santa Barbara School District, so it's one of my favorite things just to educate youth on our urban environment and what goes around us. Sorry, I'm so nervous being up here. But I think it would just be a really great joy to serve the community in this way and to get a say and talk to my friends and allow a younger voice to be heard on these committees. And I have followed City Hall meetings, and I'm familiar with the schedule for it, and I also helped my grandmother in Ojai cement the Taormina historical landmark, so I'm familiar with the policy for it, and I studied that in college, so it would be a really great joy to use that in a community that I care about. Before substituting for the district, I led an interior design firm in town, so worked a lot with architectural regulations. I also volunteer at the Architectural Institute of Santa Barbara, so helping out with volunteering and fundraising for that. So I'm really passionate about our architecture here and would love to preserve it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for this candidate? Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Just a follow-up question to what you might see as the biggest challenges for HLC, and then also if there are other positions you might also consider, which you don't need to answer right now, but you may want to notify us if there's.
Wait, what was the first question?
Biggest challenges of HLC today.
I think the largest challenges would be getting familiar in environments like this, because I haven't worked in a government-facing position or one directly with the public. A lot of my work has been private practice with architecture and interior design firms and with the youth. So I think in this environment, kind of regaining that skill of that I learned in college and articulating myself in a way that follows the structure of that, and in these environments, I think would be the largest challenge, but definitely one that I'm willing to overcome. Second, yes, I would be interested in other ones. I'm very passionate about the Historical Landmarks Commission because I have so many deep connections to these places and feel a really great desire to preserve them, and I feel most educated in that commissions, but I also did see the Sister Cities one had an opening that I was interested in, and since I do live in that community, if there's a neighborhood advisory council position available for like Presidio, downtown Santa Barbara area, I'd love to be considered for that as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else here for historic landmarks? Okay. Move on to Housing Authority. After that, Library Board. Neighborhood Advisory Council. Parks and Recreation. I know we've got one there.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Jacob Yasnobrook. Soon I'm applying for the third term of Parks and Rec over the past years. I have enjoyed my time on Parks advocating for access for people with disabilities and also listening to community concerns and planning Parks and Rec. It is a big department with kind of interesting thing to get into, and the staff is great, and I want to keep contributing to its vibrant mission in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Buxton? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you. And that's it for Parks and Rec. Anybody, let's see, did that one already? Planning Commission.
I'm back. I'm Donald DeLuccio, Planning Commissioner. Served almost a year, if you can believe that. I was appointed in late January, and I want to thank you all very much for that. I've already attended 20 meetings, if you can believe that. I think I'm going to skip to one thing I want to say very carefully, because, you know, our commission, there's been some emotions in our commission, because we're all so passionate about housing. But I think it's very important sometimes that we need to put our emotions aside, and instead, we need to use our technical skills to base our decisions. Am I able to make the findings? So I think that's really, really key. So I wanted to communicate that to you. And I think that's been my success for being a planning commissioner, not only in this city, in my short tenure, but also for many years in West Hollywood. I want to thank each of you. I've met with everyone on this commission except one council member, and it's my objective to reach out, continue to reach out, and perhaps meet with them prior to when you make your appointments on December 5. My challenge this year has been not the technical skills, because I think I bring those. It has been becoming familiar with the city, with the planning approval process here, with the general plan, and with the zoning ordinance. You have two zoning ordinances, and one in a sense where you need to get it together at some point. You have Title 30, which is the land use, and you have Title 28, which is the coastal. I've never approved coastal permits before I came to the city, so I actually found this book really good, Navigating the California Coastal Act, and that's by a local author, Jana Zimmer. Other things I got involved with, we did design review where I came from. Actually, the Planning Commission did the design review. However, what's unique about this city is all the architectural boards you have and the historical core that we have here. So actually, I was delighted when I got appointed to the HLC. I found that was really, really helpful to me. And then finally, we took over those single-family home appeals from you guys. I don't know if that's good or bad. But now I have another piece of material that I'm carrying around, single-family residence design guidelines. So real quick, I think going forward, the commission, including myself, we need some training. We actually need training mostly in the better understanding of the key state housing bills. I know I met with the mayor. You had just come back from the League of Cities. And there must be, over 180 bills right now and of course, they don't all impact us, but we really need some training to understand the key ones. And just, if I can just really fast, a couple of other things. There's other resources out there, the California League of Cities. I've actually attended the annual Planning Commissioner Academies when I was on the former commission, and also the American Planning Association, the California chapter. I think all the commissioners should be enrolled as members. And there's an opportunity to attend the annual conference, which rotates among the cities. In fact, some years ago, I attended the conference here in Santa Barbara. And also, what's cool about the American Planning Association, you'll get on an email list, and they'll send you emails, updates, and they're really interesting planning updates to help us enrich what we're doing. So I think I will probably stop there. And again, I'm happy if you'll reappoint me to serve a full 4-year term. And I really mean that sincerely. Thank you.
Do we have questions for Mr. DeLuccio? I think we all appreciate your passion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And anybody else for Planning Commission? I give up. What are you here for? Come on down.
Hi, it's good to see you all this afternoon. My name is Lisa Beck, and I am reapplying for the Rental Housing Mediation Board. I've served over 10 years on the board, going back to 2007. I originally received mediation training at Pepperdine University, where I got my MBA in dispute resolution and my certificate in dispute resolution. And at this point, I believe that I am one of the most experienced mediators on the board. I believe I have successfully mediated more cases than any other mediators currently on the board, so I regularly provide mediation training for our newer mediators. The Rental Housing Mediation Board, I think, is interesting in that many boards, you want to change up representation regularly so that you get a diversity of viewpoints. When you're talking about mediation board, because we are also doing the mediating, the more time that you have doing the work, the more effective that you become in the work. You not only become a more effective mediator, but you also become more aware of the laws and policies that impact tenants and landlords in the community and possible resolutions that can be offered to them. So I think it's really important to bring back experienced mediators as much as we can so that they can provide good service to our landlords and tenants in the community. I'm really passionate about the work that we do. I think given the current state of housing in the Santa Barbara area, we see a lot of conflict between tenants and landlords at this point in time, and it's very important to have a place where they can go to get services that are affordable to both parties and where the playing field can be leveled. So I think it's very important that we provide that service and keep as many people as possible from having to go the route of legal counsel and ultimately into the courtroom. And that's about it. If you have
All
any
right,
questions,
very
I'm
good.
happy to answer those for you.
Questions? Ms. Sneddon?
Thank you, Mary Rouse, and thank you for applying. Do you have any ideas about how this board could be even more effective?
I think one of the big challenges we face is just, well, as you probably have all heard from Andrea Buffano about this, is just that there's a limited amount that the board can do. The actual Rental Housing Mediation Program provides a lot of the service to the community. And so the board really only gets called upon when something escalates to the point that it actually requires a mediation. So the three staff members who staff that program, they do the bulk of the work. So they are doing outreach, they're answering questions from the community, they're providing services, letting people know about their legal options, letting people know about the laws that impact them. And so I think it would be fantastic if the board was enabled to do more of that work. But unfortunately, I think in many cases that's not realistic. So when it comes to actual mediations, luckily, not that many things escalate to that point over the course of the year. And so we don't get called upon as often as I think that we would like to be called upon. But that's actually also a good thing in many ways. But I do think if we had more opportunities to do more educational outreach and to actually, potentially respond to questions from community members, I think that would be a way that the board might be able to be a little more effective.
Thank you so much.
Do you feel that a lot of the clients you see from both sides are under-informed in terms of what the rights, responsibilities from both sides are?
Absolutely. I do think by the time they actually get to a mediation, they've often been prepped by the staff. So they've been prepped by Andrea and the other people who serve on the staff. So by the time they actually get into the mediation room, a lot of times they're a lot more savvy than they were when they started the process. But yes, many people get to the point of conflict having escalated to that point because they weren't really aware of the laws and policies that affected them. They weren't aware of
For instance, something that we see regularly is, there's a lot of laws now that dictate exactly how much rent can be raised, or exactly under what circumstances somebody is given money back because they're being asked to leave a property. And a lot of times the tenants are unaware of those things. And actually in many cases the landlords are also unaware of those policies.
And do you have an opinion on how the best way to distribute that kind of information might be?
I think it's very challenging because we have such a diverse community, but we have certainly been trying to make more efforts to put things out into like apartment complexes, put flyers out in apartment complexes. We go to a lot of community events and pass out literature. I think one of the big challenges there, though, is that there's not an easy way to reach everybody. I think we might want to try to explore more options like social media, things like Nextdoor Marketplace to put out information. But I do think a lot of it happens through word of mouth, or when somebody gets to the point of being in a difficult situation, then they Google it, and that's how they end up coming to us.
Right. Well, good. Well, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Appreciate it. Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Mr. Jordan.
It's for staff. Thanks. Yeah. Nico, so I'm just doing my handicapping here, and up in the qualifications for this, it says one appointee may be a non-city resident. But when I'm looking at the applications, there's 2 expiring applicants who are non-city. It's Michelle Roberson and Lisa Beck. So I'm just wondering how we're down to, is it true that only one can be not a city resident, and how do we have 2 that are expiring that are non-city
Mr.
residents?
Lopez.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Jordan, I don't have an answer to that right now, but I can look at that
will you
and
check
and
so
get back to you.
I don't pick the wrong people at the end?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, we appreciate that clarification. That'd be great. All right, very good. Well, that wraps up our interviews. We have down to council and staff communications, and then council member engagement. So, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you.
I have a question first.
Well, then you need to push it a little bit. Go ahead.
How are we doing with the outreach to specific areas in the city? Like, for example, I'll just say my district. I just, like for the last, the rental housing mediation, there's like 9 vacancies, and we kind of see like the same people over and over. I try to do the best to reach out to people, but a lot of people don't know that these committees exist. And when they find out, the deadline, is, so do we have a plan on how to be more creative in educating the public about these committees and what they do? A lot of people think it's just like, oh, it's volunteer work, but a lot of these committees make really important recommendations. Do you have any information on that?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez, the city clerk's office does make efforts to reach out to members of the public. We do a press release, and we do advertise on the website, and we do also ask that staff liaisons for each board and commission do reach out as well, because they might be more privy to specific communities and groups that might be interested in boards and commissions. In terms of a plan, we're always kind of looking for different solutions and ways to get the word out better. So we're definitely open to any sort of suggestions, or for specifically for your district, that if you have any suggestions, we're definitely open to that.
All right. Then we'll go back to, I think, Mr. Gutierrez, you had your light on first.
Thank you. Yes, I got to attend the Boys and Girls Club fundraiser, and also I got to blow the first whistle for the first bout of the Brawling Betty's roller derby, which was the first time they've got to play at the showgrounds in 7 years. So it was a pretty cool event, and I encourage everyone to support them. Thanks.
All right, very good. Mr. Friedman.
Thank you. I'm going to do commissions and report out all at the same time. So did the
Sustainability Summit, and thanks to all those who showed up. It's another great event. Learned a lot about what we're doing, and our staff was a lot of the presenters, so we're ahead of a lot of our neighboring communities here. And also attended the Airport Commission, the monthly Coastal Cities Group Leadership Committee, the Seafood Festival, Harbor Seafood Festival. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and just supporting local fishermen and everyone down there, and it was packed, and it brought the good weather because 3 weeks before it was foggy every day, and that was like the perfect weather for it. And then Sierra Club also hosted just an annual breakfast, potluck breakfast, so good to connect with them. And then with some of my colleagues last night at the Sri Lanka Film Festival kickoff as well. And it's the second annual, and looking forward for this week. They have it, and the closing ceremonies will be at the Libero this weekend.
All right, and anyone else? If not, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.